Alright, slight delay in videos there. I was making a quick asset. For the next part of the tutorial, which will be 2 videos from now, I'll give this away and actually do like a follow along where we'll go step by step through the process of what I basically do to create a template. This one we're going to go over intermediate nodes like I talked about in the last video, where we will go and see what other ways there are to connect stuff and basically go beyond just the spacebar nodes and actually start exploring what's in your library, handy nodes to use, all that kind of stuff. Again, I am in the office. There will be background noise, and a lot of people are sick, so there'll be lots of coughing. Hopefully not. So yeah, let's get started. So we created our uniform colors, if you remember. So let's do that real quick. We'll do that. Go ahead and make our roughness. Change that to grayscale. Change this to grayscale. If you guys remember this, and then go ahead and create our color. Control D to duplicate. We'll make this colored. Bring up our alpha. Red. Alright, so we have a color. Right. Now, we talked about blend node before here to blend stuff together. What if you're trying to blend an entire material? Right? So let's say we created another one. So let's grab all these again. Right. And we decided we want this to be a metal. Well, that's going to be a lot more glossy and really desaturated, like blue. Oops. Value. Now it's going to be desaturated green. Let's pull it back to blue. Like that, right? So now you run into the problem of, well, how do we connect this node to these? Well, the way you technically do it is take a blend node, in this case 3 blend nodes. Let's do that. Duplicate, duplicate, right? And then you'd say, alright, color 1, color 2, and then roughness 1, roughness 2, metallic 1, metallic 2. Okay? So you could do that, and then you would come up here, connect these, like so. Okay? Then how would you change them? Well, you change them to the opacity. Basically, you'd have to create a button that goes opacity, opacity, and you'd have to have them all linked so that they all work together, so they all switch at the same time. Okay? Now, that's way more work than you need to do, right? Especially if you're going to have 12, 13 different base materials, 10 different base materials, even 5 base materials. It's going to make this really clumsy, not that intuitive, not that quick to do. So this is where utility nodes come in. What exactly is a utility node? It's basically anything you make to make your life easier in Substance Designer. Anything from like an invert. Like, how is an invert node made? If you come over here and you type in invert, you have invert color, invert grayscale. So let's turn in grayscale. So all this does is flip your color. So if we take this white, put it in here, it's going to become black. Well, how would you normally do that? Because remember, everything's made from a spacebar node code. Well, you'd get a levels, right? So let's plug this into a levels. And then you'd switch the black and the white. Bam. Levels adjustment. And that's now technically an invert. Well, instead of having to do this every single time, the person, I'm guessing someone at Algorithmic in this case, because it's a default node, was like, hey, we'll just make a quick node. To backwards engineer a node, you can just right click it, open reference, and if we go ahead and open this reference, we can see it's exactly that. A grayscale connected to a levels that is switched, and that's it. And in this case, they added a button so that you can invert one way or the other. If you look here, true, false, so it'll reverse those again. So you can invert back and forth. So that's a really simple example of a utility node, something to make your life simpler. Another thing to think about with like this levels is, let's say you need to flip your normals. Well, how do you flip a normal? You flip it through the green channel. So again, you can go into levels, change it from luminosity to the green channel, and just flip your green channel. And there you go. You just flipped the green channel of your normal map. So that's what I mean when I say utility. It's things that make your life easier, your toolbox, just like with Substance Designer, or not Substance Designer, ZBrush, Photoshop, those kind of programs. You usually start building up a library of things you use. ZBrush, you have your special brushes you use, and you have, you know, custom alphas and things like that. Photoshop, you have your action scripts and your again your brushes and things like that. Well, Substance Designer, Substance Painter, you're still looking at doing the same thing. You're going to start creating a library of things that help you out to make your life easier. So in the case of what we were dealing with up here, if we go over here and we're like, well, we need to find other types of blend nodes. Let's just type in blend in the search in our library. So we have normal blend, color blend, and already you can see there's a lot of other blending options other than the stuff in spacebar. So you can see there's blend, there's color blends, there's burns, color dodges, dissolves, all kinds of stuff. Well, what we're looking for is a material blend. Okay, let's go ahead and pull that out. So a material blend allows you to blend two materials together. So if we go ahead and we'll take a look at this node real quick. Go over to channels. Again, handy. You can turn off what channels you don't need for ease of use. So if we don't need the diffuse, we don't need the normal, let's say, specular, gloss, height, ambient occlusion. So it's much easier to look at. So let's delete these blends. Go ahead and pull this over. And put in our channels. Just like so. Type number 1 to get, or sorry, number 2 to get your auto connect. There we go. So there you go. Now you have both of these in one node connecting to each other, because everything is going to be behind the scenes. If we go ahead and open reference here, you can see exactly like what we were just looking at, where you have a blend. You know, here goes your diffuse blends. Here goes the next blends, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. Alright, so then what's next? Well, in this case, this is asking, if you come over here and scroll over to this is asking for a grayscale mask. Okay, so basically a black and white mask. Well, how do you create a black and white mask? Well, you could bring one in. That's simple, you know. Or another, not exactly a utility node, but something that is a little bit more advanced is SVGs and bitmap node. So bitmap node, if we go ahead and click this, the thing to think about with both of these nodes is that they create a file with your file. What do I mean? Basically, it's going to save a PNG. I think they save in PNG or bitmap file. If you see here, it's now under resources. We actually have a file that's now connected to this file. Now, this doesn't work really with automated templates, right? This was a step for a custom template or custom graph because you can't automate what's painted in this. So anyways, to take a look at this, you know, you have a brush. You have brush options. You know, we could change to artistic. This is Wacom, you know, pressure sensitive. I'm not using a Wacom right now because my microphone is sitting on it. But one of the great things, if you can see while I'm working here, is that it tiles perfectly left to right, up to down. So you can paint whatever you want, and never have to worry about it not seaming correctly from left to right, up to down, corner to corner. You have colors, 2 different colors, I believe. Yep, works just like Photoshop with X to switch between them. You have erasers. It's erasing to white because I think that's our background color. I don't know what this is. Oh, multi-brush. Okay, so, that's a clone. Sorry, so clone. So if you need to actually paint out maybe a seam line within a texture you brought, like a baked-in texture, you brought it in, you notice there's a seam line. Here's a way to help paint it out. And then lastly, you have UVs. Don't know if that works on bitmap. background image. Could have sworn you could turn on UVs. Not exactly sure how to do that. I don't use these nodes, usually. So that's a bitmap node. The other one is an SVG node. So an SVG node, think of this, again, it's going to create a resource for you. An SVG node is a lot like a, if I do this, no. SVG node is a lot like a pin selection. So that's exactly what you have. You have basically non-aliased images you can create, like so. So in this case, we want a black and white mask, or grayscale mask. So we are going to make the background white. So if we come here, we're going to go here, do that. Oh, alpha's all the way down. And then we will go ahead and just make a shape in the middle, kind of in the middle, and then just go ahead and connect that there. Now you can see we have a masked out section. Now, that's not that nice looking, right? Right. So what's a way to avoid that? Well, come here, delete that, delete that. Oops, well, that caused me to delete our SVG, so let's go ahead and get this back. Alright, so another thing we can do is we can pipe in an image, a background image, so we can draw on top of it, right? So we could do that, come in here, get the actual pin tool. Alright, and then, oops. We can go ahead and draw around, let's say this. Sorry, leaning into the mic there while I look. Go around this UV shell. Like so. Again, change our background color to white. So we'll actually delete the background so it's not overwriting. Plug that back in. So there we go. There's a way to mask out this one thing. But, like we said, this only handles 2 nodes, right? So look here, only handles 2 things. Well, again, there's another utility for that. It's called multi-material blend. So we go here, multi-material blend, go and drag this guy over. Similar concept, except it takes a color ID, and then you can expand this from 2 to 16 nodes. So you can do 16 different materials blended through this. Alright, as you see, a lot of nodes. Go ahead and collapse that. A lot of material blends, and then you make basically a color ID. This you're going to use way more often probably in your pipeline than this. Why? Well, first of all, this takes color input. This is a huge thing. Why is this a huge thing? Because your artist, your art director, your art lead, he can create basically colors that are locked in that are like, alright, this color for a mask equals metal, this one equals plastic, this equals brush metal, this equals this, so on and so forth down the list. Then all the artists can just use that. You can save the color IDs here, as you'll see here, color ID, you choose what color, and then there you go. All they have to do is plug in their color mask, and it's automatically going to pump out the color. Great. Let's do a quick example of that. For Red 5, if we go here to our base values, we'll go ahead and pull this node in. And basically, this node is exactly what we're talking about. If I go ahead and open this, open reference, close that one. All of our base colors, here, as you see, base metal, base paint, base cloth, base organics. They're all piped into their corresponding material blends, and then they just pop out the other end. So, a few things to note about this is, why did I use 3 different material blends when they go to 16? Well, because you might end up... One second. Alright, sorry about that. So, we might end up with more than 16 materials. I mean, right now we already have, let's see, 4, 8, 12. We already have 17, so we already meet one material node, multi-material blend maximum. So what I did was split them up. So this is just for metals. So now we could have 16 different metals, 16 different paints or non-metals. You know, we could add plastic in there too. 16 different, what is this? cloth, thank you, organics. So let's go back to seeing like what exactly that means. So now we have this node with our base materials. So we can come over here. Let's delete this. Oops. Let's actually delete the node we want to delete. Alright, we'll bring this over here real quick. I should already have this resource loaded. Yep. So here goes a color mask. Go ahead and click this. A color mask from our library that we created. These values all correspond to the values you saw over here. Alright, so each one of these nodes, go ahead and click on. Oh, this is locked, I can't click on it. So it's not going to let me see the colors. See, they're blacked out. So each thing is already connected to a color. It's all preset, so all the artists have a similar thing as this, so they all know, so they can just sample this. There's also a Photoshop palette that they could just load that just has all this stuff in there and labeled. Alright, so they take this, make whatever mask for their asset, plug it in, and then we'll just go to output like that. Click number 2 so we can get actual, or number 1. So there you go. It's already changing different colors. And we even have our options of changing things colors. As you see, it's a little, well, it's a lot blown out right now. Oh wait, let's try that. Ha! There we go. It does pipe out the colors of the mask right now, just so you can make sure your areas are selected well. But then you can just simply click on the node, start changing the colors accordingly. This is getting a little bit more advanced, but the idea here is to show you what you should be thinking about when it comes to things you'll need to support the pipeline you're trying to create, support the workflow you're trying to create, and just make your life easier. Okay? So, my suggestion is to get as used to, let's go number 2 again. Get as used to the library as possible. See what's already in there. See what exists. And then if something's not there that you really want, make something. Some other things, you know, examples of things that didn't come out of the box that I created. If we go here to our utility nodes, let's see. Uniform scale. Now they already have the function in here, but that means every time I wanted to do uniform scale, I needed to create a transform 2D. I then needed to expose this. I needed to then set in the parameters, things like that every single time. So instead, I just saved a node, and now if we pipe something into it, you know, we have a node with just a slide bar that we can simply, you know, zoom in, make an image larger, smaller, very simply, other than messing with the other thing. Some other utility nodes, I made some masks. The other thing that's nice about having set colors, you know, with that template, you know, if we bring the map back, if we have these set colors, is I could start creating things based on those colors. So I created things like metal mask. So we can bring out this metal mask, pipe this in, and now anything that is metal, it's going to mask out. Then I gave buttons that say, okay, we can invert the mask, but then we can also choose, alright, maybe I just need to isolate chrome. So there. Now we're just isolating chrome. Again, a utility node to make everyone's life easier. Okay? So, last video we created a simple, very simple base material. Now you're seeing some advanced stuff to start creating higher end things. My suggestion for a good practice for what you want to do is go ahead and go online, try to find an image, a base material, you know, try to find some dirt, something simple, and try to recreate it. You have this giant library at your disposal. You know, you type in grunge, you know, you have all kinds of grunge maps already here. You know, if we just look up, sorry about that, you know, some of these things, you know, it's a cool ground texture. Try to take it as far as you can. And again, you can always backwards engineer. You can always look to see how someone got a certain effect. And try to create a few, blend them together, mask them out, try to create something. Hopefully this was helpful, talking about a little bit more advanced workflow, a little bit more advanced nodes. get used to the library. That's the main thing I kind of want to talk, mention. Mostly everything that you would want to find in Photoshop is going to be in here when it comes to blending things. Now there is some more advanced stuff we can talk about, which will be mask generators, which are going to be under mesh adaptives, or sorry, they kind of renamed them mesh adaptives. These are the cool effects that cause like cracks and things like that dynamically. But those are going to be a lot more advanced, and you really want to get used to how the nodes work and interact together as you start chaining stuff together, how to get certain things to work. For a quick example, making something larger. What do I mean by that is, let me show you. We take this, let's say, yeah, I guess. We'll take this. What we're going to want to do is, I would prefer this to be grayscale. Whatever. I'm going to go ahead and get a blend and a blur. Okay. And then we are going to get a histogram scan. I'm sure you guys know what a histogram scan is. Plenty of us use them. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to take this to blur. Okay? We don't need to blur it that much. We're just going to blur it slightly. Okay? I'm going to have this and this put together. We're going to blend these two nodes. We're going to tell it to be at, max lighten. Actually, in this case, probably max darken. Yep. Okay. Going to pipe this into our histogram scan. Take out the contrast. So now you see, we can actually make this grow. So what it's doing is it's sharpening your blur. So based on how much you blurred it, it's blended back together. As you see, it has a foggy line here, but in the histogram, it's going to cause that to be able to be movable. As you see, it does start to distort. You don't want to do this too much. I kind of over-exaggerated for the point of the example. But that's kind of the example of things that are a little bit more advanced that is going to come with you creating nodes. Just start creating stuff. There's no harm, no foul in it. So start creating stuff, ask questions if you have it. And now we're going to actually get into the step-by-step tutorial for this. The next video is going to just kind of be me talking about uses of Substance Designer in the game industry and how to think about it within the pipelines of the game industry and how to use it in an artist workflow, all that kind of fun stuff. And the video after that, we will be doing this wall. Yeah. Again, thanks. Leave questions, comments, maybe post some of the base materials you created. Take care.